Hello, everyone. I'm Trisha Wolfrey, and this is Your Empowered Self. Welcome to the latest in my series of how to manage stress. And today I'm going to be in conversation with the very beautiful Daisy Guy, who is a breathwork practitioner. I love breathwork. I've been using it for many years. What I love about it is wherever you are, there is that tool available to you. But what is it? How to use it? We're going to find out shortly. But before we do that, I'm going to ask Daisy what it is that stresses her out on a day-to-day basis, just one of her life stresses, and how she deals with it. Hello, Daisy.
Hi, Trisha. Thank you. Thanks for having me on. So if I'm completely honest, time management is my biggest stressor. I find it so hard to navigate time and my awareness around how much time things will take. I'm really ambitious. I'm like, I can do that in 5 minutes. Never happens. So the consequence of that is called time blindness and is an
Mm,
actual thing. What I assumed was just me being rubbish at managing time is there is an element of like, this is kind of how my brain is. But being late is incredibly stressful. The fear of letting people down, missing things, of the disorganization also comes with not managing time well.
yeah.
So there are lots of factors that will get in the way of me being on time, like losing things. So time, big stress.
So this is a really common problem, and I've recently become aware of the time blindness principle. But you've come up with a strategy on what helps you with that, haven't you?
Yeah, it's it's multiple strategies. But and it's not perfect by any means because I'm still me. But one of the things that I noticed was that my environment really impacts how I manage time, how I respond. So if my keys are just in different places, I will be late because I always forget where I've put them. So I have to have things in set places and I need things to be organized in a specific way so that I don't become stressed, which then makes me late. Um, I make notes before I go to bed of like what I've got to do for the next day. And so that I've got a little plan. And like before our call, I did that last night. Um, yeah, and just there's the organizational kind of thing. I schedule in my diary 30 minutes earlier than things start. And I mean, it's quite difficult to stay on top of because things are always moving and changing. But I really have to look at my diary and I have to look at what I've got on and say, is that actually realistic? And sometimes when I don't know, I ask someone else.
Yeah, I
And
think
my
that's
friends will laugh and just be like, no.
what are you thinking? Of course not. But you really thought it through, and because you said it's the way your brain works, the strategies that you're using, you have to be super disciplined for to implement those things that help you. So for you, it will be more effort to do those things, which to me are common sense. Of course, you're going to do those things, but for you, the thinking that through is an extra layer of overcoming that time blindness condition, isn't it? It's
Mm.
super discipline, if you like.
Yeah, it's not a natural kind of process. And so
Yeah,
like I set alarms for
yeah,
things and
yeah.
when I'm working on something, I'll set an alarm for
Brilliant.
like roughly when I want to finish.
Yeah,
Or sometimes when I need to start, just to get
yeah,
me going. Because once I'm in a hyper focused state, I could be up for hours. If I'm
yeah.
in something, if I'm in the zone, it's happened before and I'm up till like 4 in the morning.
Oh,
And so
wow.
learning from
Yeah.
that, just as getting to know myself and how I am, I
And that would
have
make you really tired
boundaries.
for the next day, which exacerbates the problem for the next day.
Yeah.
Something, because I do teach time management to quite a few people. One of the techniques that I think is really useful for those people um, who consistently underestimate the time something takes is to consistently overestimate the time something takes. So if you're normally like 300% out in your assessment, then exaggerate your assessment by 300 or maybe 400%. And then you've got that wiggle room. And when I'm managing my time, I always overestimate, because you get curveballs come in. That means even if you had that concentrated time and could have done it, something
Mm,
happens that ruins the plan.
yeah,
So that's a strategy that also helps. But I think what you're doing is terrific. You're finding ways of just making your day easier by
yeah,
overcoming that, because there must be some spontaneity going on for you, a kind of spontaneous mindset. So it's kind of
yeah.
making that more disciplined. Which,
Yeah, like we need a framework for it. It's like when I'm
yes,
teaching, what I've learned is that I can't naturally just tell the time. So I have little clocks. I've bought little clocks
yeah,
and I just have them, so that I can see right in front of me
yeah,
rather than relying on my intuition to have a
yeah,
look at my watch that's over there.
yeah.
I need prompts. I need things around me in my environment to support me. And the
Love
other
that
thing that
phrase, to
impacts
support
stress.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because some people I know that aren't great with time, they just think, well, it's just me. It's just, I just kind of flow through life. But it's looking for what supports you getting more out of your life, living your best life, rather than just kind of finding that the days run away with you and the weeks run away with you and the months have run away with you and so on.
Yeah.
We could
And
do a
it
whole session just on this, couldn't we?
is, we could, just the other thing around it is like the stress that it creates is
Yeah,
actually really horrendous. It can be
yeah,
awful if you're rushing to get somewhere and anxious about being late to meet someone. For me, it's like they're going to be angry, I'm letting them down. I need to get there on time. It's like I want to be. It's not, I'm not really like, oh, it doesn't matter. It's
yeah,
who I am. I don't.
yeah,
Someone else is involved or I'm working, it
yeah,
absolutely matters. It's important. And
yeah,
I think that, responding to that stress as a way of caring for ourselves is really
yeah,
important, and saying, okay, what can I do?
yeah,
Because I don't want to feel like this.
yeah.
And
So
that's a
you
good
look at the
motivation.
consequences of things as well, which is an important element of it. Yeah. Good. Well, thank you so much. Let us talk about breath work. Yeah, I first came across this many years ago. Um, but rather than me explain what I know of it, you're the expert. What is breath work?
So breathwork is a really broad term describing accessing, using our breath in different ways, different practices, different techniques that will change how we feel, how we think, how our body responds, our nervous system responds. But ultimately, it is an umbrella term for breathing practices.
Yeah. And what is I mean, we're all, if we didn't breathe, then there would be a real problem, wouldn't there? So how does breath work differ to just breathing day to day?
Yeah, so our body is constantly, supporting us to be here and breathing, our heart's beating. And when it's that we're not conscious of it, we can develop habits and, we'll notice that if you're stressed, your breath might be shallow and it might be up here. If you are really relaxed and calm, the breath might be soft, it might be fuller. So immediately we know that the way that we breathe impacts our physiological state, our nervous system, and our executive function.
Yeah.
So changing the way we breathe will impact our health and the way that we feel, the way that we move through our lives.
And just so that people understand the term executive function, because not everybody will be familiar with that, this is your ability to think logically and plan and so on,
Yeah, and like
and make
how you
decisions.
navigate tasks. So
Yes.
with executive function, it's like you might have a task to do and there's lots of different bits in that task. Are
Yeah.
you able to see it through? Can you sustain attention? Can you be distracted and come back to it?
Mm,
It's like, how do we function in our lives and doing all the things we need to do?
mm.
And so if we are in a stress state or we lose focus quickly, our executive function is impaired, our ability to do the things we need to do.
Yeah.
So yeah, the way that we breathe
Yeah.
does impact
Yeah.
all of these things.
And I know, but actually, I know from my clients, I can see how stressed they are because their breathing will be way up here. And sometimes they will stop breathing when they're
Yeah.
trying to think something through, and I go, and breathe. And they laugh, but really they're just literally holding on to their breath completely.
Yeah.
So it just shows how it is linked to when we're stressed. But I know that there are various uh, practices that deliver different benefits, aren't there? And you're going to kind of explain a few of those just so that people have got some specific tools. So one, let's start with one that just can't, because since this is to do with stress, something that just calms us down straight away.
Yeah. So the first thing, like with any breath work, is actually just building that relationship in the moment with what is going on for you. So, like, if you are feeling super stressed and someone just said, breathe like this, it would be, I don't, this is not helping me right now. So it's like, let's validate and acknowledge what is going on. I'm super stressed out and I need to take a moment. And that is the moment we take a deep breath, just saying, whoa, I need to stop. So taking a deep breath in and sighing out. That is the moment that then introducing a technique like coherent breathing, a minute of that, 2 minutes of that to rebalance and regulate would be really powerful. And that's a 5 second, approximately 5 in and a 5 second exhale.
Okay, so the coherent breathing is breathing in to the count of 5
Yeah.
and breathing straight out to the count of 5.
Like there could be a gentle pause. There can be a
Yeah.
little pause. It would be like inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. And just starting to come into that rhythm. And like it can really help if we find it hard to breathe, to have a hand on the belly, one on the chest or just below, kind of in the middle of the rib cage, and just start to feel where it's landing. And if it's high up, then just, start to think about the belly moving in and out and just softening it, and that in for 5, out for 5, without getting too fixated on it being perfect.
Yeah.
That coherent breathing is amazing for regulation.
Yeah.
It
So
is.
just to clarify the thing about the belly, if we were to watch a baby breathing, their belly is rising up and down, isn't it? So we want to be breathing almost into our, so that our belly kind of rises up. Yes.
Yeah, like diaphragmatic breathing, that
Yeah.
deep breathing
Yeah.
is if we've been feeling really stressed and anxious, or we, need to boost our energy, it can be useful to breathe diaphragmatically. We don't do it all the time. We don't need to always be thinking about breathing there. We can breathe up here and that's okay. But for this, to start to deepen the breath and the quality of the breath, just in
Right.
that moment,
Yeah.
feeling like you are expanding and taking in new air means you can expel and let go
Yeah.
of some of that pent up stress. So,
Okay. So it doesn't have to go so deep. Just focusing on the breath and keep inhaling for the count of 5 will take it deeper.
yeah,
And the exhale is the part that relaxes, isn't it?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So the exhale, that letting go,
Yeah.
it's when we breathe out and we have that time, even with that tiny pause at the bottom,
Yeah.
it's when the nervous system responds like there isn't a threat
Yeah.
because I'm able to breathe out in this way.
Yeah.
The nervous system, the body really responds like
Brilliant.
that. So
Brilliant.
it's just gently allowing the exhale and the inhale to be
Yeah.
there.
And this is such an easy one to do, isn't it? Because nobody's aware that you're doing it. And so you can do this in public and you're calming yourself down
Mm.
in a way that is invisible to others, but you certainly feel the benefit of that. That's brilliant. Yeah. Okay. And what about another technique?
So another technique would be box breathing.
Hmm.
And that's really useful. There's an inhale and a pause, and an exhale and a pause. So if you imagine you're drawing a little square and it's just inhale, pause, exhale, pause, they're all equal length. And that's really, really helpful for focus, for just, if you've got loads of stuff going on in your mind or lots of things to do and you don't know where to start. I sometimes do it in the morning. I need to get grounded and I just, I've got 5 minutes, box breathing. It's soothing, calming, and it's also controlled by adding in those little bits of retention when we hold the breath. We also can create a micro stress. So it's tiny, tiny level of stress because you're holding your breath, but you will get to a point where it's like, oh, I need to breathe. And that, your nervous system is going to respond to that. So breathe. And so that micro stress creates an alertness in the brain,
Oh,
but it's
interesting.
super controlled. So box breathing is one that I'd recommend to literally everyone. And if breathing in for 4 to the count of 4 with the holds is too much, start with 3.
Mm. Brilliant. So I didn't know that about box breathing. That is so interesting. And I love that about the micro stress. I'm going to be doing a talk today about stress. And
Oh, amazing.
yeah, and I'm going to make the point that actually some stress is good, the positive stress that is energizing and motivating and makes us productive. But too many people have negative stress. So what you're saying with the box breathing, so it's kind of in, hold, out, hold.
Yeah.
And that's what we mean by the box, isn't it? That's really useful. Thank you so much. So when you
Do
want
you
to,
like it? Box
do you
breathing?
know, I focus really easily. So
Oh,
I don't,
Trisha, what's the secret?
well, I think my brain is just a bit different. I'm a morning person. It helps, and I'm extremely organized. I know. This is why I teach time management. Uh, um, there are secrets. This is not what we're here for today, but there are ways of being in the world that make it a lot easier.
Yeah. I think
Maybe
I
we
need to
can
come and actually like do some work
spend
with
some
you.
time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there are, I mean, you've already got some strategies which are really, really useful, but there are others as, in fact, it's in one of my books. I've got a chapter on it, and in my, here we go, 21 Ways book, there's a chapter on it. So some of my techniques are given in that.
I'll get the book.
Yeah. Okay, so brilliant. So that's box breathing, which is great for
Mhm.
focus.
Yeah.
What's the best one for when you're really stressed out?
So I like experiencing really high stress. Are we talking like stress at work or stress at home? That kind of just like intense
Just where
stress.
you're kind of, yeah,
There are a couple.
yeah.
There are a couple. It really depends on the person, which is why I'm saying there are two.
Okay.
And one would be if you're super stressed and there's loads going on, thinking about trying to practice a technique can actually be more stressful because then you might think, oh, I'm doing it wrong. So just lengthen your exhale. Just see if you
Yeah,
can, in a state of real high stress,
yeah,
if you're in an environment like at work, can you take a moment just to go to the loo?
yeah,
Literally just so you're away from wherever you are, go to the bathroom. If you can't, can you just make a fist with your hands and kind of breathe in and lengthen the exhale, release your hands. And so just making the exhale a bit longer and noticing, I am super stressed right now,
yeah,
and creating a little bit of tension in the body, and then consciously thinking as you breathe out, letting it go,
yeah.
and
And I,
releasing.
yeah, and when you're releasing your hands, that's physically letting it go and letting it go in your breath as well.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I think so when you're acknowledging, you're not affirming I'm stressed, you're acknowledging the stress. It may be saying I'm feeling stressed right now, which is
Mm,
more to do with a state rather than identity. And then would it be helpful then to affirm I release, I let it go, or something like that?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Mm,
absolutely.
yeah.
It's really validating what you're experiencing,
Yeah.
and not missing that bit, because otherwise it just gets squished down and we don't feel good, so it's
Exactly. That's what
really,
I'm going to be talking about today. We don't want to be squishing anything down, but
yeah,
nor do we want to be emoting in an unhelpful way either. So it's getting that just right. So we're acknowledging what's
yeah,
happening and then doing something really helpful and healthily helpful or functionally helpful to release it and put us in a better
yeah.
state.
Or like just
Um,
put it in a box, if you like. It's about, these are all tools and techniques to build our autonomy.
yeah,
We don't want to be reactive and then cause more problems for ourselves. We don't want to say things that we then regret saying because we were feeling
yeah,
stressed. It's that having self-awareness and that kind of level of control of like, okay, I know what helps me to manage this.
yeah,
And I'm going to reset and acknowledge how I'm feeling. And then I get choices. How do I go back into this meeting? How do I go back into this situation with my partner? And we can do that from a really healthy, strong place where we're not just reacting.
yeah,
And that is why, tuning in with our breath, it gives the opportunity to really tune in with ourselves,
yeah,
take a moment and say, how do I want to respond?
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I love that.
yeah.
So it is making you more responsive rather than reactive,
Mm,
or planned rather than impulsive. So you get better results from whatever's going on.
yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Now, a question I've never really understood the answer to is, does it matter whether you breathe in through the mouth and nose and breathe out through the mouth or nose? Is there a theory around that that's important, or doesn't it matter?
Well, breathing in through the nose. So we have all these little um, they're like little toothbrush bristles in our nose, and it cleans the air. So it does, nasal breathing is healthier. Like it's better for us when we breathe through the nose. It's also, our breath is more regulated when we are inhaling and exhaling through the nose compared to when we breathe through the mouth. And mouth breathing is associated with quite a lot of health conditions. If we frequently, breathe through our mouths, it's a lot of it's in this book actually that I was going to say about, which is a great book that talks about nose breathing, mouth breathing. But yeah, so breathing through our nose is how we can really tap into, the nervous system, soothing the vagal nerve. But at the same time, if somebody has a health condition or they've broken their nose, they need to breathe, right? So it's
You
like,
don't stop the breathing, you just do what you can. It's just that with
yeah,
sometimes with yoga, for example, you're asked to breathe out through the mouth. And then sometimes you're just asked to do, I've
yeah.
never really understood that. So I don't know what that's all about. Anyway, never
Oh,
mind.
so I'm also a yoga teacher,
Oh,
and like breathing out through the mouth is great for all of us. When we yawn,
yeah.
when we're expelling CO2, when we're yawning, when we sigh, we're also regulating. So the nervous system's regulating, and sighing, taking a breath in through the nose and then sighing that out. When we hear our own voice and when we make a noise, we're the vagal nerve, which runs like down the back of the head and throat and through the diaphragm, that's being activated and massaged. So exhaling through the mouth is a real release. It's a brilliant way of regulating, switching back into your parasympathetic nervous system.
That's so interesting because I sigh a lot and it sounds like I'm fed up about something, but I'm not. Or I don't think I am anyway. But I do sigh. So that must be why I'm just regulating
Yeah. No,
without
it's
knowing
really
that I'm doing
good.
it.
I
Yeah.
always say like embrace the yawns
Yes.
when people are
Use the
yawning.
mouth daintily, the hand daintily.
Yeah. Yeah, but like it's okay. Like this is a really natural bodily function. And sighing, like if somebody's been stressed and then they feel tired after, it's because the cortisol levels have dropped, adrenaline's gone down. They will
Wow.
start yawning and sighing because that's what the body does when it has regulated and rebalanced. It's expelling that buildup of CO2. The pH levels in our blood are regulating, the red blood cells like that bind oxygen, everything's kind of just regulating and settling. So we use that active exhale to release what we don't need. So breathing out through the mouth is great. If you breathe in through the mouth sometimes, like I think everyone does, is just bringing awareness, not thinking I've got to only breathe through my nose for the rest of my life. Like if you're running up a hill,
Mm.
good luck. You know, it's
Let us know how that goes.
like people do that and they train in that way. And it's amazing, you know, how changing the way that we breathe can massively impact our health, the way that our body functions, strength, the strength of our heart, strength of red blood cells to bind oxygen. So free divers will train in a state of oxygen starvation, you know, real air hunger to get stronger. But equally in day-to-day life, you know, we don't really want to be walking around with our mouths taped up. I think I must breathe through my nose. So
Oh.
it's just if you notice that you're not
Mm.
coming back and thinking, okay, this is going to be a lot better for me. I'm going to feel more energized, better, calmer if I just switch back to breathing in and out through my nose.
Just mentioned a word there as well I want to pick up on, Daisy. Energized. So sometimes when we're stressed, it brings a lot of fatigue with it, and we just need that little boost of energy. Is there a breathing technique that helps to energize us without stressing us out?
Yeah, there's
That's
like,
what it is.
yes, love to. And just quickly, I said there were two techniques
Oh,
for
sorry.
that's okay. Like, I think I've been chatting quite a lot, but those two techniques for when you're super stressed, one of them is to breathe in and just lengthen your exhale. And the other is bilateral regulation. So you can use your finger and just breathe in through the nose and then exhale other side. Inhale, exhale. So it's just inhale left, exhale right, inhale right, exhale left.
Yeah, so that's used in yoga quite a bit, alternate nostril breathing.
Yeah,
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 so the benefit of that is to regulate the body.
yeah. So it regulates, it's bilateral regulation, regulates the left and right hemispheres of the brain. So this is something that's brilliant for people with neurodivergent conditions, ADHD, in creating some balance, because there's usually one side of the brain that's way more active than the other.
Wow,
So we're
that's really
working,
helpful. Thank you. I'm going to write that
yeah,
down.
yeah.
Okay,
It's my favorite,
yeah.
without a doubt. In yoga, there tends to be, when we practice Nadi Shodhana, there are breath holds and at the top and at the bottom when we practice that breath. It's slightly different. So it's with this, you know, just balance breathe. It's keeping it really simple. And
Yeah.
for neurodivergent people that like to have something in their hands or they're more kinesthetic, we'll often make a fist in one as you breathe in through the right, and then exhale left, inhale
Make,
left. So you're,
do you mean make a fist then in the left?
yeah,
Alternating the fist closing.
inhale right, and then exhale left, inhale left, exhale right.
So it's hard to see what you're doing. So what are you doing with your fists? Are you closing them both alternately?
Yeah, so just
Yeah.
inhale right. So the right is inhale,
Yeah.
exhale left, inhale left, exhale right.
Great. That's really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
And as
And
our last breathing technique, let's have a look at the one that energizes without stressing people out.
yeah, so it's creating micro stress. So we just want to stimulate the nervous system, just switch it on and be like, hello, wake up. So
Yeah.
we breathe a little faster. And so you're going to be taking in short, sharp breaths like that. It might be a little bit slower, but just for like 20 seconds. We're not doing this for a long time. And then you hold your breath at the top and then exhale. Just a couple of times doing that. And then any of the other techniques that we did before that help to just release that micro stress. So you've got the energy, the boost, and then the focus and the calm.
Brilliant. That's so helpful. Thank you very much. I think that's going to be so helpful to so many people. So the book, you've let the cat out the bag. There is a book.
Yeah, sorry.
No, that's
Got
okay.
excited.
I'm joking. So I've still got this cold. Anybody that's been watching this series. Oh gosh. Yes, I always ask my guests if there's a book that they have found inspirational, useful, and helpful in their lives that might help other people. And you've got one about breathing, actually, haven't you?
Yeah. Like there are some amazing books about breathwork, but this Breath by James Nestor is, I just found it such an interesting and easy to read book. You know, it's personal, it's sciencey, but accessible. It gives amazing kind of explanations about other cultures and how they, you know, how the relationships they have with breathing and the breath and how that impacts their health. It's fascinating. And it's just like, it's one of those books you can pick it up, like whatever's kind of wherever you're at, and enjoy reading it with a cup of tea, or, you know, it's not like I've got to sit and read and study this book.
So when you say sciencey and accessible, you mean it gives you good science, but in a way that's easy for the layman to understand?
Yeah, like
Right,
for
yeah.
anyone, you know, it's enjoyable to read because,
Brilliant.
you know, I've read a lot of texts, a lot of books and studied. So, and yet some of the stuff I read is still really like, oh, it's hard. It takes a lot of effort and concentration sometimes to focus and absorb. And because of the way this is written, I just found it quite effortless to take this stuff in. It's like I wanted to talk to people after and be like, oh, I just read this. Did you know this? And like it's a nice book to read. And if you're completely new to breathwork, or you know, it's you're at the beginning, it's perfect. And for me, and I've been doing it for years, I loved it and I really enjoyed reading it because it's informative and it's quite personal as well, you
Yeah.
know, so you get both.
Beautifully designed as well. I love the design of it.
Yeah, yeah, it's a good book. So if anybody's interested in reading something about breath work, that's a nice one to start with.
Brilliant. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Daisy. I've really enjoyed our conversation. I feel that there's lots of conversations we could have had today, but we were focusing mainly on breath
Yeah.
work. I do hope everybody else has found this as useful as I have. If so, I think it's one you can probably save and keep going to time and again. Also, please like, comment, and share. You never know, this might land at just the right time for someone else. Thank you very much.